Hi, and welcome back to Jen and Dan's Natural Healing with Plants, the go-to podcast for health seekers looking to harness the power of nature for health and healing. I'm Jen. I'm a passionate health educator, whole food, plant-based culinary coach, and master herbalist, and I'm here with Dan, an exercise specialist and wonderful master herbalist. Together, we dive into the world of natural healing, bringing you a wealth of knowledge and practical advice. We draw from both traditional wisdom and modern science with herbs and foods to help you achieve optimal health. So, today, first of all, welcome back, Dan. I'm glad you're here with us today. Today, we're talking about salt. There's so much controversy around salt. Do we need it? Is it harmful? Are some forms better than others? If we're looking for minerals, can I just take herbs and not have any salt? Some people are saying don't add any salt to anything. So let's unpack the salt. So, Dan, first of all, do we need salt?
Yes, absolutely. Because I think most people have heard the sodium potassium pump, haven't they?
Yeah, well, at least in our world.
Well, you have to have both minerals for it to pump, you know. So
Yes.
we do have to have some. I just don't know. I can't say, well, this guy, you need this much and you need this much. It's going to be individual, I think, because everybody's different. Some people are sensitive, but I don't think the statistics if you look at the statistics, there are not a lot of people
Hmm.
that are very sensitive as far as their blood pressure. I was reading an article this morning by
Hmm.
this, I think it was a heart doctor.
Uh-huh.
He said that only about 1% of people will respond to lowering their salt intake as far as their blood pressure. He says some people, their blood pressure might go down a little bit, but that's only 1% of his patients. So that's telling me it's not a big issue.
Right, right. Well, I know, like you said, sodium, potassium pump. So we need sodium and potassium. And so that kind of leads me to another discussion because salt doesn't necessarily mean salt. Like salt
Yeah.
isn't there. There's so many different forms of salt. And so one thing I've heard is they say, I hate that. I don't know why I even said that. You hear that when you cook at home and you use salt in your food at home, it's less salty than if you go out to eat or if you use packaged foods. And I also feel like it's a different form of salt, especially in packaged foods. Like I know in like even chicken, I haven't bought chicken in almost 10 years now, but when I did, it would even say on there that it had like a salt water added to it. And so even if you're eating things like that, there's salt added to everything. Salt in your canned beans, for instance, things like that too. So there's different forms of salt.
Yeah, those are the ones I really like to see people stay away from if they can.
Hmm.
I think that I believe that the salts and processed foods,
Yeah.
it's just there's so much. If you look at a can of say refried beans, even the low fat, the salt content is I mean it's over I want to say it's probably 2,500 milligrams in one can of refried beans,
Hmm.
depending on the
Wow.
brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. I know that sparked something and I totally lost it. Oh, so back in the day when I thought I was eating healthy before I got a diagnosis, I remember someone at work telling me, "Oh, I see you heating this up for lunch every day. Have you ever paid attention to the sodium?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And at the time, for those of you who haven't listened to my story, way back when, after I had a master's in health science, I was eating lean cuisines for lunch every day. They had a protein, they had a grain, they had vegetables, right? So it met the food guide pyramid that I had learned back in the 90s. Since then, I have had to unlearn all of that stuff. But on a lean cuisine, first of all, my number one rule now is read the ingredients because I can't even tell you, there's probably 50, 75 ingredients in there. But I never thought about looking at sodium. And sodium is so high in the sauces and things like that of all of our frozen meals, especially they have some sort of sauce. on them. But we're not just talking about sodium. And so if we're looking at table salt, right? So then we have sodium and potassium, but that is refined from real whole salt, which is what you were talking about earlier. And so it's a refining process. A lot of times they use aluminum in the processing, and so a lot of them will test high for aluminum as well. And so I don't like for people to use just regular table salt that we grew up using. That's on restaurant tables and things like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't either. I usually use sea salt or the pink salt. I think they call it the Himalayan salt.
Himalayan,
And there's another one. Was it Celtic sea salt? Yes, yeah.
Celtic sea salt.
And you were telling me there's one you use that has kelp in it, right?
Oh yeah, there's a whole nother one. Yeah, so I don't know if we can say names on brand names on here, but we will. Maine Coast Foods, we do not sponsor them. We are not affiliated with them. They sell sea vegetables, so like kelp and bladder wrack and things like that. And I love all those. They have even little shakers for as a good source of iodine because people say, well, I always buy the salt with the iodine because I know you need iodine, and I don't eat foods that are high in iodine. But Maine Coast Food has a sea salt that has kelp added to it. And so it looks like salt and pepper, but it's salt that has kelp in it. And so if you sprinkle it on something, looks like you just sprinkled salt and pepper. It has the kelp, but that doesn't have a fishy taste. It does smell a little, has that smell of a sea vegetable or something, but I don't notice any taste at all when I sprinkle it on my foods. So you can still get a salt with the iodine added as well. And so I really like that. And I use it kind of as a sprinkling salt. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But I do buy the pink salt. My favorite is Selima sea salt. And I never even knew that Selima was a place. I always wondered how it had that name. But when I was in Mexico recently, I saw that's where it's from. But it's almost a moist kind of salt, like a Celtic sea salt. They have some kind of moisture. I don't know if they're like binding to moisture or what. I'm assuming, salts being salts are, but I really, really like that's my favorite. It's expensive, but it's my favorite is the Selena sea salt. Anyway, so we do have to have sodium, like you said, the sodium potassium pump. It's for nerve signaling to send nerves from the brain throughout the entire body, from your intestines and everything. It's for muscle contractions. We have to have salt for muscle contractions to balance our fluids, like you said, with the kidneys, and then for blood pressure, which you also mentioned as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we do need it. Does it necessarily have to come from salt? So before we go there, what are the pros and cons of using salt?
Well, there's some benefits. If you've heard about this recently, it's been going around for a while that even if you're drinking water, you might not be hydrating.
Mhm,
And some doctors are saying, and maybe other health coaches, that's because you need a little bit of salt with your water
mhm.
because it helps your body hold on to the water better that way.
Yeah.
It helps you maintain your electrolyte balance because sodium is one of your electrolytes.
Mhm,
Of course, it improves flavor. I mean, my my wife won't even she won't eat if it doesn't have some salt in it. She just won't eat it.
mhm.
So I've learned that if I can cook a pot of vegetable soup, but if I didn't put enough salt in it, she won't eat it. So that's one benefit.
Yes.
Now, potential risks. Some people are sensitive. If you're having blood pressure problems, you do need to look at you need to try to reduce your salt and see if that helps you. Some people it does help.
Yeah.
It does contribute to fluid retention. So if you're already having fluid retention, you want to watch your salt intake.
Yeah. Any edema, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to, like we're just saying, you have to watch your processed foods. I mean, processed foods are really bad for you. And just one of the bad things about them is they're just so full of salt. And I think the salt in processed foods is not the healthiest type of salt anyway.
Right. Right. I totally agree. I know for me, so I used to get migraines before I knew I needed to eliminate gluten. I would get migraines quite often, and one of the things that would help me was salt. And so I would eat something salty or have something with salt to help with my headaches. And so I know that does help with some people. And you have to, there's like, so I do agree that we need some salt. We need different forms of salt, which we'll talk about, I promise. But we can overdo it as well. And so it's finding that fine line. I know for me, I had gone to where I eliminated salt back after I got my master's in health science. I eliminated salt. And then, there I took all these nutrition classes and I graduated. And at the time I got married and then I had my first child. But I didn't really know how to cook and I didn't know how to use the information I learned to actually put it into practice. What does this look like? What does a healthy plate look like? So I went to culinary arts school and every meal I made, and she'd say, you need to add more salt. You need to add more salt. So when you're talking about the flavor, you need to add more salt. But I think to me, I had gotten so used to eating so low salt that everything tasted so good to me without salt. Like I didn't need the salt. But then we start adding the salt, then it kind of numbs the taste buds as well. So if you're used to eating like chips or processed foods or canned foods that have a lot of salt, then when you try to limit it or not have as much, then the food doesn't taste good. It's bland and you keep having to add more and add more and add more. So you do have to find that line. For me, when I cook, I very rarely will add salt while I'm cooking. I will just add it, at the table or when I'm serving it or right before I serve it.
Yeah, that's a good way to cut down on the
Mhm.
the amount every day.
Yeah.
And people asking me about, and this is a good question.
Mhm.
Well, what kind of salt should I eat? I mean, I knew a girl one time. She was going through medical school, and she says salt is salt. I'm like, no, I don't agree with you. Of
Mhm.
course, she knew more than me. She claimed, but anyway. So we have sea salt, we have the pink salt, we have Celtic salt, and we have table salt.
Mhm.
But we are just talking about processed foods just a minute ago, weren't we?
Yeah.
So your table salt, the stuff you see, at the restaurants, that is highly processed, and you're saying it has aluminum in it.
Right.
But your sea salt is just straight from the ocean. They collect it. They don't do anything to it. Same thing with the pink salt and the Celtic salt. So these salts actually have minerals.
Mhm.
Your table salt doesn't really, it only has sodium.
No potassium. Mhm. Yeah. So you're limited. And so I do like that you're still getting some trace minerals
Yeah.
from these. And I like buying the big chunks and grinding them. Like I have a grinder that I'll grind the salt in, and that's really my favorite. Because another thing I wanted to say, like for the salt that's on restaurant tables and that we grew up using, they can have things in them, anti-caking agents that are not listed on the label. That it's legal to add those to our products and not tell us. And so you have to be aware of that. So if you're buying, like I said, I like the big chunks and I grind my own. I know exactly what it is. It's just the salt, right? It doesn't have any anti-caking agents. And I know want to, it's not just in salt. I don't know if you remember 10, 15 years ago, they said they were putting like wood chips in Parmesan cheese and things like that to keep it from clumping and stuff like that. So we do have to be aware of that when we're eating processed foods. It's, if we go back to as whole as possible, it's going to be best. Now, there are some concerns about like heavy metals in different salts. That's beyond me. That's beyond where I am in the information. I know I always look to see where is it coming from, the source and stuff like that, but I really don't know much about heavy metals in salts.
I don't either. You probably have to contact the company and they may or may not be honest with you.
Right.
So,
That's true. That's true. But our herbs are very high in minerals too, and including sodium and potassium. And so we can use herbs as well. So if you are trying to, or you need to, because you're salt sensitive, to make sure you're meeting your mineral needs without adding salt, then you can definitely use herbs. And my number one go-to, I drink it every day. I just put my cup in the sink before we started recording, but I have nettle tea every day with something else that's not the best tasting. But I usually will have it some peppermint or fenugreek or something like that. But it's very, very high in minerals. It's the one that I did my thesis on. Because it's one of the most mineral rich greens that we have available. Very high in calcium, magnesium, iron, and potassium, as well as other minerals. So that one's my favorite.
I'm glad you brought that up because dandelion leaf's another one that's really rich in minerals.
Yes.
And earlier when I said that, these unprocessed salts, they do have minerals in them,
Hmm.
but not the levels that these herbs would have.
Right. Right.
They're just really trace amounts, but the herbs have more. And alfalfa, that's another one. We learned that at school.
Yeah.
Dr. Chris would talk about alfalfa being one of the most mineral dense herbs because the tap roots grow very deep into the ground. I think he said 30 feet down.
Wow.
So they're able to collect minerals, deep into the earth because, conventional farming, they're not really rotating anymore. So they're only using the topsoil and that's getting depleted.
Mm-hmm.
So when the alfalfa grows down deep, that's not depleted down deep. So
Right.
it's a really good one, alfalfa.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another one that I like for minerals, especially for women in premenopause, menopausal, and beyond, or who have some issues with bones, is horsetail, or they're concerned about their skin and collagen and things like that. So horsetail is very high in silica. It's high in lots of different minerals, but also silica, which we need for healthy bones and hair and nails and things like and skin.
Plantain is another one that I really like. It's rich in minerals. It also has plantain's really good for stings. If you've tried the leaf
Yeah,
before.
we use it constantly. Yes.
Yeah, it
Yes.
works really well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Pulls out venom. Yeah.
Yes. If you're not familiar with plantain, then Google it, or if you don't use Google, whatever you use, do a picture because it's probably in your backyard, unless you spray your yard with pesticides, which hopefully you do not. Plantain is in everyone's backyard, and it is fabulous for insect bites, bee stings, minor cuts, splinters, anything. So, I live on a farm, and so constantly, my husband's constantly getting something, a metal shaving or wood shaving or something stuck in his hand. And every time, even at night, he'll be sitting on the couch and he'll go, oh, my finger just keeps hurting. I don't know what it is. And he'll go out in the yard, he knows right where the plantain patches are, crumble it up, stick it on there, and in 15 minutes, whatever it was, works its way out. It just is very pooling. And so that's beyond our salt conversation, but it's also very, very mineral rich. And so I do like it in teas, and it's very mucilaginous and helps with gut health and helps with the lungs and the respiratory system. So I do like to include it in teas for the minerals, but also for the other mucilaginous benefits. And then it's in our first aid kit as well, as in growing in our yard. Our first aid kit is our yard.
And the other thing about the herbs is they also contain phytonutrients and they're anti-inflammatory and they don't make your body retain fluid like salt can.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Yeah. So very high in minerals. So having like a mineral rich tea with any of these herbs, you don't have to drink them alone. You can just add them to something else. Can be really great for boosting your minerals. And so I did not give us a medical disclaimer, but as always, the information in our podcast is for educational purposes only. We are not telling you to use these teas. We are teaching you about these teas. You do your own due diligence and decide if they are right for you. So what about celery juice? So celery juice is a huge one. The medical medium talked about celery juice quite often. It's very, very high in minerals, and I have to admit, I include it in my green juice most mornings. I do include some celery. I don't do 100% celery juice. I do like to add it with other things, but it provides lots of electrolytes. It's a natural source of sodium. I have a previous friend and client who dried celery and ground it into a powder to use as her green salt. instead of using salt. I think that's a great idea, but it can help
Yeah.
hydration. It can add more minerals as well, and it's beneficial for digestion. So, what are your thoughts on celery juice?
I think it's a really good juice to use. It has a lot of minerals, and the celery salt you just mentioned,
Hmm.
and not salt, but the celery seed
Mm.
and the celery juice. For some people, it does help lower their blood pressure, and it's really good to drink, especially in the summertime. It helps you stay more hydrated if you're sweating a lot. Celery juice does.
Hmm.
Um, And it does have, I don't know how much sodium it has though. I guess it has more than some other vegetables. I'm not quite sure on the sodium content.
I'm not positive either. I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that it does have. I know it's very rich in minerals and even when you eat it, if you bite into it and just pay attention to the taste, which is something we ignored it. We don't do mindful eating anymore. But putting it in
Yeah.
your mouth and chewing and actually tasting, you can taste the saltiness
Yeah.
in the celery. Yeah.
Anything green, I'm telling you, we need celery, leafy greens, broccoli, the green foods. None of us get enough. Maybe you do, Jen. I don't. We
I
need them.
don't, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. I get it. I eat it 3 times a day. I eat greens, giant salads. And, we had talked about this on previous episodes. Dr. Furman recommends that everyone have a pound of leafy greens a day and a pound of raw and cooked vegetables. And so there's two of us in the house. And so we've been buying the equivalent of, 2 pounds a day of greens and we have leftovers. It's like, how are we? We're not even like right now. We went to the grocery store yesterday, and when he left, we had 3 heads of romaine in the refrigerator, and it was, we're not. I had a broccoli, things like that. I'm not even eating
Yeah.
all that Dr. Furman's saying. And I eat it 3 times a day. Tons
Yeah.
in I'm juicing it. I'm putting it in my green smoothie or I blend it in with my chia pudding. I have a giant leftover salad every day. And then I put it in whatever I'm cooking. I put lots of greens too.
Yeah. So we all could get more, and it's not easy.
Not easy, right? But yeah, I just don't know how I could put more in there unless I just juice them all. But then you're
Yeah.
losing a lot that way too. So don't do that.
So what would you say? People looking for a balancing act here. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
So
we recommend eating plant-based. So,
yeah, whole food plant based. I know a lot of people are SOS free, no sugar, salt, or oil. And I can do that as in adding no, don't add sugar. Am I 100% all the time? No. I do use some maple syrup. I do use molasses, and I do use coconut sugar, not every day, but occasionally. Even Dr. Christopher said to use molasses. That's a different subject. Oil, I don't like oils, but every now and then I will put an oil in a salad dressing. I don't cook with oils. But then with the salt, I do add salt. I feel better with salt. And for those of you who don't know my background, I'm also certified in nutritional endocrinology. And most of my clients that I see through there, they have problems with adrenal fatigue, which you've probably heard of. It's adrenal insufficiency is what they use now. We're burnout. We're stressed, too stressed all the time, and the adrenals need salt. And as Dan mentioned in the beginning, our kidneys need salt. We have to have salt. So use celery salt or something like that if you don't want to use these other salts. But I think that it is important to include a little salt, but a little, not a lot. Don't cook with a lot of salt and add it at the table. And just eliminating processed foods is going to go a long way. And read your labels. Look and see, if you buy anything in a box or a bag or a can, flip it over and see what percentage of salt is in there. What are the milligrams of salt? That is so important as well. What are your thoughts?
I agree that we shouldn't just go and eat like 5 or 6,000 milligrams a day of salt. I think that if the recipe calls for salt, especially if your blood pressure is high, I think that if you have high blood pressure, you should definitely play around with how much salt you're eating.
Yeah.
I do use a little bit of salt, like you do when I take my food out and I'm ready to eat. If it needs a little bit, I'll add just a little bit at a time
Right.
until it tastes the way I want. I just don't sit there and shake it,
Yeah. Don't salt it before you taste it.
Yeah.
Yeah, taste and see what does it need. Right. Some people they immediately just pick up the salt. Don't even taste
Uh-huh.
it.
Yeah, they start shaking it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Give it a little
And
taste and see. Yeah.
and I believe that if you just eliminate processed food or try to mostly eliminate it, that
Mhm.
is going to greatly lower your sodium intake. I mean, that's the easy way to lower it.
Yeah. I agree.
So,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
believe in balance. Balance.
Right. Right. Not all or nothing. I totally agree. Yes. So if today's episode helped you understand salt a little bit more, we encourage you to make better choices with your salt. If you have questions about the salt, please comment. If you don't agree with something we said, comment. We want to hear from you. To learn more about Dan, go to danthenaturalman.com. To learn more about me, go to holisticjen.com. That is with a W, WHOLISTICJEN.com. We both work with clients one on one and in group programs as well. And we love to hear from you. Until next time, keep nourishing your body with wisdom, balance, and the power of plants. We'll see you next week.